Awesome, we're almost done with classes, but there's one last concept that I need you to know, and that is inheritance. Inheritance is the process of creating a new class out of a base class. So a new class that has all the properties and the methods of a base class, but also it has some other methods. So why do we do that? Well, I'll explain that to you through our example. So here we have this blueprint, so this class, and let me delete this, not to confuse you. So there we were just calling the class instances. So we have this class which creates a bank account object for us. Then we can withdraw and deposit money from this bank account. Now, what if we want to transfer money from this bank account? So from our bank account, transfer money to another bank account. Well, we would have to add a transfer method in here. And then do something like, just simple, like self balance equals to self balance minus the amount. So we pass a transfer amount there, and that is subtracted from our balance here. But as far as I know, you cannot transfer money from your saving account. You can transfer money from your checking account, but not from a saving account. So that method wouldn't make sense for a checking account. And this account is a general bank account. So what we could do is maybe we could create another class, like we could copy this and create another class and call it something else. And so we have all these methods there. So that's one solution. The other solution is to use inheritance. So here is where inheritance comes in handy. You derive a class out of a base class, which is a more general class, like this account class in here. So let's create a new class. This new class is referred to as a subclass, and this will be the base class. So again, you need to use the same syntax, so you use a class keyword there to create a class. And let's call this checking. So for a checking account. The first thing we want to do is to create an init method. With that init method, we will create like this minimal object that I have been talking about. Like in our base class, we also need a balance from our file. And so we need that file path. But instead of writing this code again, as I said, what you can do is, well, first you need to create an init function method, and of course pass self in there. So you always pass the self parameter, whether that is a base class or a subclass. And then in this init method, you want to call the init method of your account class, which means that when you create an object instance of your checking class, this method will be executed. And when this method is executed, this method executes the init function of your account method, so that you create this minimal object, which is the same as this one here, but then we will have some extra methods down here. So a checking account is this plus some other things. And here you need to pass self and the other parameter that is necessary for this init function. So here we are passing two parameters, and we should do the same in here. And if I execute this now, I'll get an error. So by intention, I want you to see what error we get. So let me create an instance of this function. So checking. And yeah, let's try that out. Here. Yeah. That's inside the account folder. So here, and then ack.py. Let's see. So the first thing that this is saying is file path is not defined in line 21, which is this one here. And the reason to that is that we haven't defined any file path inside this function. So you can pass that inside the init brackets as a parameter, and then you need to pass that here as well. So let's say count balance.txt. Good. And we don't see any output there because we are not printing anything out. But what happened basically is that an object instance was created, and this method was called, and this class was initialized as well. Now, if we try to do, so the whole point of inheritance is to do something like checking, so to access methods of the base class without writing those methods in your subclass. So let's say checking.deposit, and let's put an amount there. So 10. Now if we execute that, we get this attribute error which says checking object has no attribute deposit, so this is not recognizing this method. The reason to that is that we haven't yet satisfied the syntax of inheritance. And so the key here is to pass an argument to our checking subclass, and that argument is the base class. So the name of the base class. Save that. If you do the same now, and maybe print out the output to see what's happening. So self.balance. Sorry, I meant to say checking.balance. Sorry about that. And yeah. Now it seems to be working. So this method was recognized, and what this did is from 1100, which was the initial balance, it went up to 1110. So this printed out the balance instance variable of the base class. So that's how we deposit some money in our checking account. Now we want to transfer money. So we need to define a new method here. Let's call this transfer self there, and also a local variable amount, so as a parameter. So this is just a local variable, it doesn't have to do with these ones here. And then we want to update the balance, so we want to transfer some money to some account. That amount will be subtracted from our balance. So that means self balance equal to self balance and minus amount. And now if we try that, new method there, so we are at this point. Let's transfer 110. Yeah. And I was expecting to have 1100 here, but I got this number, and the reason to that is because we didn't commit the changes earlier when we deposited some money. So when we executed the script now, an object instance was created from the beginning, and it got this number here which wasn't updated to this because we didn't commit the changes earlier, but you get the idea. So from this balance, subtracting this one here, we get this. That means the transfer method is working, but we just need to apply the commit method there. So again, we can commit those changes. Yeah, let's see what we get now. So from 1100 I want to transfer 100, and now I expect to have this updated to 1000. Let's see. Yeah, 1000 printed out here, and 1000 in here too. So that is working great. Also, another thing I want you to know about the inheritance is that you can add your own instance variables for your subclass. Like in this case, our only instance variable is balance, which has been inherited from the account base class, but we can add our own instance variables. So let's suppose this transfer also comes with some fee. So when you do a transfer, your bank charges you some money, and you want to give that fee as a parameter. So let's keep things simple and say when you transfer money, so balance minus amount minus the fee. So let's not apply percentages there. Let's suppose we have a fee of $1 per transfer. Now if we apply the transfer method again, we'll probably get an error because this fee is just a local variable here. So what you need to apply now is you need to transform this fee to an instance variable, which is self.fee equals to fee. And that means if you pass now a fee here, so let's say $1 or any other currency, and you pass it here, so this will go here and that will go here, and this will be equal to the fee that you're passing here. And then we can make use of this instance variable and use it in this transfer method. Great, now we are at 1000 there, and let me execute this. Yeah, so 899, and yeah, the same here, which means 1000 minus 100 minus the fee, you get this number. And yeah, I hope you were able to see how inheritance comes in handy to create subclasses out of a base class. That's it for this lecture, and we have one more lecture to go. And in the next lecture, what I'll do is I'll clarify some terms of object-oriented programming. So that will be a short lecture, and that will help you later on when you refer to documentation, because there are quite a few concepts out there in OOP, and I don't want you to get confused with those. So I think that's an important lecture. Yeah, talk to you later.